Stitchers.
Hi,
I'm Laura.
and I'm Keisha, and we are the Pattern Queens, and welcome to Special Stitch with Us number 22. Today is Sunday, April the 22nd, and it's nighttime. It's after dark, Pattern Queens After Dark, and this is a channel about cross stitch.
And friendship and silliness and shenanigans, and about it really being April 24th, which would have been my mother's 100th birthday.
Wow.
So, kind of a special day for me.
Yes, that's great.
So
before we jump into the stitching and the questions and the chatting, Laura, what are you working on today?
I am feverishly working away on one of my whip goes for this month because it came up for Keisha's choice again. So I am working on Blackberry House by Plum Street Samplers.
Love that one.
It's such a pretty one. And I have it on a piece of Picture This Plus linen, which Keisha says looks like it has blackberries smashed all over it.
Yes.
And it goes in my bag from Judy. That's just the perfect purple bag to go with it too.
Right, with the button that looks like a blackberry.
Oh yes,
just
that's the
perfect
best
all
part,
around.
right? There we go. Cool little button. What are you working on tonight?
So I am actually working on a hay tonight. I am working on, oh gosh, that glare is awful. Flying Piggy. It's a quick stitch from Heaven and Earth Designs, and the artwork is by Lisa Victoria. And I'm just stitching 1/1 on a piece of 25 count linen. So that's where I am. I'm just doing a whole bunch of blue today.
Fun. These are the best kind of projects to be working on during a Stitch with Us.
Yeah, just a nice little chat and get your some filling in done.
I'm filling in this great huge urn, and I only have to do 500 stitches, but last week I did a floss tube by myself because Keisha was off having a good time. And somebody said that I should make it my goal. I asked, what could I finish by the end of the month? And somebody said, oh, I think you should finish filling in the urn.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that would be
urn,
a lot.
Yeah, it has a lot. And I am currently working on a model stitch for the black needle. But I hit the 40% mark today, and so I'm feeling like I can comfortably take a little break from it. Yes. And work on something else.
Nice.
And yeah, Katie turned it into my whip go choice for her this month.
Oh, well, yes, you got to when it's for the business, right?
Yeah.
And then that way you get your whip go points. Yeah, the reason why I was gone last week is I was up spending Easter with my family in Des Moines, Iowa, where it snowed a whole bunch on Sunday.
Oh, I haven't talked to you about that. So that's what you got to deal with, huh?
Yeah, well, luckily the Easter egg hunt that we went to was on Saturday, where it was a little bit chilly, but we still managed to get sunbirds. And James had a great time looking for his eggs and everything. But yeah, Sunday it snowed a ton up there. I was a little bit worried about making it home actually, but we made it home fine.
Wow.
It's mostly interstate from there. So it was pretty great.
What's new? We've had some new people lately.
Well, hello.
And we've had some great commenters. I've been trying to make sure I have kept up with all of the comments. And so welcome to all of you who are new out there, and welcome to those of you who are coming back to hang out with us. We always love to hear what you decided to stitch on while you were hanging out with us. So please comment below and let us know that.
Right. And we also are always curious to know if you have any questions for us to ask in future Stitch With Us videos, because that's always kind of fun.
Yes. Because who knows?
Right. As you can tell, I have changed my location and the lighting is really, really bad in this room. And so I know on my screen, I look a little bit grainy. So sorry about that, but you all are looking at your projects anyway. I'm
I'm sitting in
actually,
Katie's chair instead of mine, and the lighting is not as good on this side.
I am actually in my stitching spot in my living room, and I have a lamp that's right behind me. And it's we don't have an overhead light in this room. We just have a bunch of lamps. So it's the only light that's on in here currently. And it's really good whenever I'm stitching by myself, but not so great for filming, I guess.
Did you order yourself some of the neck lamps that I had the other night?
Oh, I need to. So Laura, you'll have to show those in a video sometime. She showed us at one of our stitch nights at Panera that she has these little lamps that go around her neck that shine down on her project, and they're really cool. I need to order some.
Katie got them for me during a heat wave when our air conditioning was on the fritz and they couldn't get out to us. So that way I was able to still stitch, but turn the lights off.
Right. So what's new in your life, Laura?
Well, the Black Needle just hosted our murder mystery event yesterday. It was so much fun. And oh my gosh, Katie and I have decided we have the most awesome friends because they were the perfect murder suspects and they were in the group and were grilled by people. It was fabulous. People came ready to completely and totally get their questions answered and find out who done it.
Oh, I mean, I think at this point that the murder suspects from that should all just get together, start our own improv comedy group, and just take a show on the road, because the level of improv skills in that group, I didn't know that about some of our friends.
So Katie had written a basic outline and we knew what had happened and how it had happened. And she had doled out the information to each participant that affected their character. But the only person, now I'll have to amend this here in a minute. The only person outside of Katie and I and Athena who knew who the murderer was the murderer. Except that we had kind of brainstormed a little with Keisha, and it ended up that she put 2 and 2 together very quickly.
Yeah. So the danger of being friends with Laura and Katie, and also the perk, is that they will talk to you about boxes that whenever they're brainstorming. And sometimes they're like, what is a way that we could turn someone's blood blue? Because the person who was murdered was famous for his blue dyed fabric. and then they tell you the murder solution just in the brainstorming, and then months down the road an actual murder mystery happens and you're listening to the clues and you're like, oh, I know how it happened. Guess I shouldn't guess because I don't want to win the prize off of privileged knowledge. Because since the murder suspects, if you weren't the murderer, we didn't know, we weren't told who the murderer was. We only knew that we weren't the ones who were, we weren't the murderer.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And in other news for me, tomorrow starts statewide testing. And I work at an elementary school, so I will be testing students for about the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you guys are hearing a cough in the background. My poor husband has a sinus infection, so if you hear coughs, it's okay.
I was hearing a beeping, so somebody's alarm must have been going off here.
Oh gosh. Well, I didn't hear the beeping, so I guess we're good then.
So what's new with you?
Oh, just usually what's new with me is what's new with my son. So if you're new here, I have a toddler. He'll turn 2 in July. So every day is a new thing with him. I found out that he can say the words basketball and strawberry and the word happy. I didn't know that he knew these words. We also got him to say I love you, but it's hilarious because it kind of goes with I love Baba Dad Daddy. So it ends with daddy every time, because I had told him to say I love you daddy to my husband. He said it, but now anytime he says it to anybody, it has daddy at the end because he's just trying to string all the words together. So,
Too fun.
the fun things. He's learning how to climb on even more things. I thought he had already learned how to climb on everything in our house. That's not true. He can turn over the bucket that his toys are in and get on top of it.
Oh, fun.
So we picked up all of the toys in his room at least 4 times just today.
Oh my goodness.
It's always an adventure. Oh, I guess I should also say for the murder mystery, usually I don't wear makeup or anything on these videos. I was in full makeup. I crimped my hair. And I didn't tell you this, Laura. I was so upset. I had an Amazon delivery that was delayed. I had one of those little fascinators with a black veil that I was going to wear.
No.
And black lace gloves, and it got here during the murder mystery. I almost turned off my camera to go get it.
Oh
but
my gosh. You looked fabulous.
Thank you. I tried very hard to look the part of a very fancy lady.
The grieving widow.
Grieving widow who who went and got her hair done in New York. I don't know. There's going to be a bad glare on here and you're not going to be able to see. I took a very solemn picture to send to one of my friends. That's the brightest lipstick I own, by the way, everyone.
It was a great color on you with your dark hair and everything.
Thank you. I also used foundation that was a little too light, so I looked very pale. So do you want to answer some fun questions? I just looked up random about me questions on the internet. And so
we're going to give away all the secrets, huh?
I'm just going to go right for it. And it's going to be funny because I bet we're going to know most of these answers about each other anyway.
Yes.
So the first question is, are you a morning person or a night person, Laura?
I am such a night owl. Keisha knows that I am likely to text her at very odd hours, and I am ever so grateful that there is texting in the world, because I can send my texts at crazy times and then normal people answer them at normal hours. But also when James was still a baby, Keisha had somebody who she had a good chance of having them be awake and up in the middle of the night with her.
Right. I would wake up to a message that you'd sent like 15 minutes ago at like 3 a.m. because I had James in the summertime, so Laura was on summer vacation.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd just message you back.
Yeah, if I don't hold myself to a schedule, I will definitely stay up until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been known to stay up later, but I'm trying to be better about that. I try to get to bed by 1.
Yeah. Well, and see, I'm kind of a whatever time I need to be awake person.
Motherhood does it to you.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny though, because all through college, I don't know what it was about accounting classes, but they were always really early. And so since I was 19, 20, I have had, 11 o'clock is my bedtime because I need to get up at like, 5:36, somewhere in there. It's been that way for over 10 years now. But I used to have a job where I had 3-day weekends. And so like I would kind of catch up on sleep the first night and then stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning the next night and then get back into my work schedule. So I really do like staying up late. I haven't had the opportunity to do that for a while though, because I have a boy who likes to be up by 7:30 usually. So
I
if I
like to work an early shift
Mhm.
because I've always said that way by the time I really wake up, it's time to be off work.
Ah.
And okay, so I worked a second job outside the home for a while, and one of the jobs I did was payroll, so I wasn't really dependent on anyone else. Every
Mhm.
once in a while, I would have questions that I would have to ask, but for the most part, I took care of everything on my own. And my boss had said, okay, you have to be here on Mondays because that's when we send the payroll for the previous week. But other than that, you can come in when you want. Well, I kind of got myself into going to bed a little bit earlier. And then I would wake up and I would go to work at like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Oh,
And I would be
yeah.
done with work during the summer, which was
Yeah.
fabulous. I would be done with work by 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And the other benefit to that is that I would go in and I would have all my work done. And excuse me, one of the department that I sat in, because the payroll clerk sat in the department office where we did for who we did payroll.
Mhm.
And they had kind of a weird summer where their people would just not show up to open the office, their office people. And so the managers came in a few times and found me just sitting behind the desk, handing out the paperwork and stuff to the people that I needed to. And they would come in and say, why are you over here? Why? Well, your people didn't come in and everybody else needed to go to work. So I just thought I would just jump in and just do it. So eventually I became the supervisor of that office.
Nice.
That's what happens when you take over all the time.
Right.
And I would just go help wherever they needed help because I like to be busy. I don't like to be at work and not be busy.
Right. That makes for a long day.
It does. I just realized I didn't put my needle minder on here.
Oh my goodness. So I don't know if you have any of these little magnetic
I need
ties.
some of those.
They're really great. I'll take it off just in case any of you haven't seen them before. They're just these long things. They have magnets on each end and you can use them to hold your excess fabric. James has recently discovered them. He loves magnets. We have a coffee table with magnetic legs. And so he'll take some of my bigger needle minders and he will stick them. He'll yell, stick, and he sticks them to the legs of the table. But today he discovered those. And so he was going around and then they'd snap together and he couldn't get them apart. And so I'd have to keep taking them apart. And then I was like, look, James, bracelet. So then he wanted to keep putting them on as a bracelet. It was a strange day. Yeah. Hopefully he becomes a stitcher because he already has an affinity for the accessories. So,
You could join the crew of male stitchers out there.
right. That'd be nice because my husband does not like to stitch, even though his mom is a stitcher and his sister is a stitcher, but it skipped my husband.
My husband, um, he used to stitch with me when we were first married. He would help out on things, but he's
Mhm.
always paid attention to my stitching stuff and what I do. And, he kind of surprised me the other day because he said something about, oh, that's where the goes in the model stitch. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you're right. I, I I can't believe you remembered that. So he just totally impressed me with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to
Yeah.
load up my needle again here.
See, my husband knows enough about things, but he's just kind of like, you're starting another thing? I guess that's not surprising, but you're starting another thing?
Have you
Yes.
told him how many I have started?
No, because I don't want him to behold my future.
Well, and then he'll never let us hang out together again, will
Right.
he?
That's
Mine
okay.
just is like, oh, I like when you work on that one. Oh, okay.
No, my husband really does. I mean, he likes that I have a hobby and friends and stuff around it because he has his own. But he's just kind of like, yeah, I guess that'll be nice when you finish it if you finish it.
Um, something that happened this weekend was that there was my class reunion, and I of course did not make it to any of it because of everything going on outside of that. However, because it was all going on, um, one of the girls from elementary school got in touch with me and said, "Hey, we're um, we're going to try and do a get together of all of the girls from our elementary school every couple of months just to hang out."
Fun.
Like, well, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So, people that I really haven't seen for a while, the first meetup will be in May, and it's a possible day that we might be packing for the Black Needle, but hopefully not. Hopefully we will get done and I'll be able to go and have fun and enjoy their company.
Yeah, that would be great. It's kind of fun to see people you haven't seen in a long time.
Yes.
Fortunately for me, my one of my very best friends I have known since I was in the second grade. So I still am in touch with at least one person from my elementary school.
I have a group that I get together with periodically. One of them is somebody that I've known since elementary school, and we actually ended up being locker partners all through junior high and high school.
Oh,
And then
fun.
the other two we met in high school. So
That's nice.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah, my friend, she has a cousin. Well, she had a few cousins who are in our grade, one cousin on each side. And so I've kept in touch with a few people that way too.
It's a little harder for you because you're not close to where you went to school.
Right. It's a little bit. And most of the people that I was closer to have moved away as well. So all right, let's see what the next question is for us. Oh, it has to reload the page because my phone went to sleep.
Oh no.
Okay. I know the answer to this one too. Laura Landis, are you an extrovert or an introvert?
Oh, I am such an introvert. Not. I don't think I have ever had problems meeting people, making friends. I'm interested in people for one thing, and I think that makes a big difference. Um,
Yeah,
but I like people.
right. Well,
And how about you, Keisha?
I'm a little bit introverted. I can definitely turn it on. I also find people interesting and I like to meet new people, but I'm definitely one of those after I've had like a interaction with a whole bunch of people, I need to go and recharge myself. Um, but one of the best things about our friendship, and one of the things that like I guess attracted me to you as a friend, Laura, is Lara is a person who's like, have you seen what Keisha's stitching? Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. Let me tell you all about my friend Keisha and all of the great things that she has done. She's my friend and she's great, and you should be her friend too. That's the kind of friend Lara is. She's well, I'm just so happy that this is my friend, and why wouldn't everyone else want to know about you?
It's like Bridget Jones's diary. Introduce your friends with thoughtful details.
So that's the great thing about having Lara as a friend, is if you are an introvert, she will go and she will just make you sound way better than you probably are to a bunch of people.
No.
And then she'll tell you all the great things about them. And so you're like, oh, okay, well, we're all great. And we're friends with Lara. So I guess we all have to be friends now.
And the great thing about having Keisha for a friend is that she knows what's in my stash even when I don't. One of the things that we early bonded over, there are many great things about Keisha, let me tell you. But one of the things we bonded over very early is that because she was doing magical stitches, I thought, oh, well, I've been hearing about this and Keisha's doing it. Maybe I'll do it too, and it'll be fun. And then we are not in the same house, but that didn't matter to Keisha. She still wanted to help me figure out what I could use from my stash to fit the prompts every week. And she would say, well, don't you have this? Couldn't you do this? And I think, how do you know what I have? I've had that one time here. Because normally we talked at Panera about these things.
Well, we've already established like over half a year ago, a throwaway comment about a murder weapon, and I remembered it. It's just the way my brain works.
Katie Landis has been like that too. She remembers everything about what's in stash. And she used to, when we used to have DVDs and VHS tapes and all of that, when we had movies that way, she knew everything that we had. So
that's not surprising to me. She really has a good memory for details.
She really does. I remember odd sets of things. Like I remember birthdays, and I remember people. I can see somebody that I haven't seen for many, 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 many years. And, they can be people who weren't my best friend or anything. And I will know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just know. I just recognize people. So
really cool. See, I'll remember little details about people that they've mentioned offhandedly. And then I have like oh no, do I seem creepy because I know this about this person? I probably shouldn't bring up that I remember that they said that.
So the thing about doing Floss Tube is that people think that they know you because they have sat and listened to you.
Right.
And believe me, you guys, I am guilty of this myself. When you meet someone who you've seen on screen, you're like, we're best friends. We talk every week, and sometimes the person on the other end of that is a little more uncomfortable about what's going on. So Keisha's excited about the retreat this summer, but also thinking about, ooh.
Well, see, I guess because we started this before 2020, but not super long before that, because it was like in 2019. And so I haven't really gotten out and gotten to meet a lot of you. Like I'm super excited for the retreat. Please come say hi to me. I would love that. But like, I have a needle minder from Ray, the little hedgehog that I keep on my Fun Every Day. And I just can't believe that somebody was like, please take this needle minder to Keisha. Like, I've never met you. That's so nice of you.
It's very sweet.
And so yeah, I'm just a little bit like, I talk about stuff all the time. So someone's gonna like come up to me and be like, so how's James doing? And I'm gonna be like, how do you know about James? Then I'll have to remind myself that I talk about him every week. That's how you know about James. But I'm the exact same way. I'm sure that, like, if I saw someone that I watch, I'd be like, oh, I know so much about you. And they'd be like, I don't know anything about you.
The other thing for me too is that because we've had so many Black Needle events, we have a lot of fabulous people who come to those. And I do find, like, I can see Keisha fine in this, but when we get a screen full, it's really hard for me to always be able to see who's there. And thank
Right.
goodness, you can wiggle your mouse and make a name appear, because that has saved me a lot. And I can't always see. And people will say what they're working on and they'll hold things up. And sometimes I get an okay view of it, but a lot of times it's like, no, because not everybody has fabulous lighting from in front of them to be able to show things.
Right.
And we can't see it very well. But a lot of times I will look things up too. I'll look up if you're on a chat with us and you say what you're stitching, I'll go look on Instagram and see if I can find you, or look on Facebook and see if I can find you and find a picture of what you're stitching. So what kind of a creeper am I?
Well, but that goes back to, if you are ever in some sort of Zoom chat or Facebook chat with Laura Landis, she is the first one to be like, okay, what's everybody stitching on? Okay, let's all talk about stitching together to make everybody feel comfortable, because we are all stitchers here and we all have a common interest.
One of my jobs, I'll do air quotes for that, with Black Needle is to be more of the hostess, because Katie says that she's the introvert who doesn't know how to talk to people. But what I find amusing is that the more that we do these chats, the more Katie is the one who is likely to take the lead. Although I will tell you, here's a funny story for you. So we had 2 back-to-back events, and on the opening day of each event, I ended up having to make an emergency appointment and go to the doctor to get things taken care of. And I was on medication that made me more than a little loopy. And in fact, Katie loves to tell a story about how here I am supposed to be stalling for time while we're on a live because she's having to check into something and I'm calling the cat. Hi, Poppy. Hi, pretty girl. Hi. And she's like, Mom, we're on camera. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, everybody loves cats.
Well, and our cats love to get in and out of the frame too. I don't actually have any cats tonight, so.
Yeah, but if you are coming to the retreat in August, definitely come up to me. If I don't come up to you, it's probably because I'm just staying by myself at the table. Please come up and introduce yourself if you know who I am, because I'd love to talk to you and see what you're working on, because I really do like meeting people. I just am not the person who will run out to grab you.
And also you should know, Katie does not enjoy meeting new people. It's not that she has anything against meeting new people, it's that it makes her really nervous. So it will all be fine. What you really want to do is meet everyone when I'm with them.
That's probably true. We won't go too far into the details of how you essentially tried to set Katie and I up on a first friend date to talk to each other.
Because I was like, I know they will get along. I know they will get along.
I know they would be friends. They just need to talk to each other.
But then there's also the story about how Keisha had to watch my floss tube video with my sister so that she could make sure that we weren't serial killers.
Well, that's just growing up in the age of the internet. You don't meet somebody that you've just heard about on the internet without checking them out a little bit. You got to make sure that they're not apparent serial killers.
There you go. We were your kind of crazy when you met us, right?
Yes.
Okay, what do you have for us next?
Let's see, what's the next question? My phone keeps falling asleep because we're having such great discussion after every question. Let's see. Ooh. Okay, are you a person who's always on time, or are you a person who's late?
I really strive to be a person who's on time, but I feel like I'm always running behind.
Mm,
I think I can be on time when it is really, really necessary and important.
right. See, I'm a person, oh, I used to be a person who would try to be early to everything because I just hated being late. Um, I grew up in a house with a person who was habitually late. Like, my mom, lovely person, always at least 5 minutes late to everything. And it drove me crazy whenever I was younger. Um, so I always tried to be on time to everything. And then I had a baby, and it takes a long time to get him out the door sometimes. So I'm kind of like, we're just going to plan to try to be early. And if we're 5 minutes late, then we did okay for the day. And it's even like affected if I'm trying to leave to go meet someone somewhere, because I have to say goodbye to my boy, and then he'll want me to go do something, or will be sad that I'm leaving, and I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. And then here I am, I'm 5 minutes late. That happened to me the last time we went to Panera. Um, not that we have like a set time whenever we meet or anything. I just kind of get there when I get there, but
It just robs Keisha of those extra minutes.
yes. But because usually I will order my meal at Panera on the app and tell it, 15 minutes, and then it should be ready by the time I get there. And I was like 5 minutes after when they said that my food was ready, and I had to go to the counter and tell them who I was. And um, so I signed up for a Panera card whenever I was like 18, 19 years old. So it has my maiden name on it, and I just never changed it because it wasn't a priority thing to change the Panera card. And then every time I think about it, I go and stitch and I forget about it. So they're like, what's the last name on this order? And she probably thought that I was just trying to look at the bags in the back to see what order I could pick up, because I was like, go Williams. Go Williams.
That's okay, because you have both names on your Facebook profile.
Uh-huh.
There's any number of times that Katie and I will be talking, and we will have to think which one is your last name currently.
Right. Yeah, well, I just noticed a lot of people, I guess, I mean, it's mostly in my graduating class, people that I knew before they were married. A lot of them, even if it's not their legal name, will put their maiden name in there so that you can find them and know that you're looking at the right person. I don't know. So I just did that whenever I got married, because I was like, well, what if someone doesn't know what my married name is?
Hey, I bet we could have a fun drawing for something just kind of fun and silly, just kind of some happy mail.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for all of you out there. Keisha, do not answer, please.
Okay.
You guys should all know this by now because we have said this ad nauseum. What are our favorite colors?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And if you put it in there, then we'll put you into a drawing for just some happy mail.
Ooh, I love sending happy mail. That'll be fun.
I got happy mail from Janet Jabber after I signed up a while back. And it was the sweetest thing because it just seems like those things just come at the right time.
Yes. There's just something about getting things in the mail, because that's not really a thing that I
Yes.
think to do anymore, you know.
Well, and like you don't even get your boxes in the mail since we hand deliver them. So
Right.
you don't even get the thrill of getting your mail and
That's
having the box come.
that's true. I just have, we're here, come outside.
The funny thing is, I don't even think I have to say come outside anymore. I just say we're here. And you're like, the door opens and I think, oh, she was really waiting for us. Okay.
Generally, I get, we'll be there in about 10 minutes. And then I have to decide whether or not I'm going to put shoes on my boy or if he's going to stay inside.
So now I interrupted your questions, and I'm sure that was one on the list somewhere.
Probably so. I don't know. It's a pretty long list. I just kind of, well, guys, technical difficulties. Then I hit back on my browser button. One of the questions I was just like scrolling down was, do you enjoy DIY or crafts?
I do, and I would like to be way more DIY savvy than I am. And
Oh, for sure.
okay, I think most of you know I sew for one of our two businesses,
Mhm.
and I make book sleeves. And I don't have one by
Here,
me.
I have one. I have
Oh,
one. I have
thank
one
you.
right here. You're
Oh,
welcome.
the pig one. I love that
Okay, that's
one.
what this project lives in.
So I sew those. I have not made project bags, and they kind of terrify me a little.
Mhm.
Now, is that a funny thing? Because I sew regularly,
Professional.
like every week.
I have to laugh because there was a cat that just rose up very slowly and then went back down.
Oh, behind me?
No, like behind your left shoulder there. I just saw the back of a cat come up.
Oh, yes,
Down.
there is. There's a little bench back there behind me. That's funny. But yes, I'm a little terrified of making project bags. And I love project bags. And oh my gosh, I need more project bags.
Right.
So
See, I don't I've never really tried to sew. I'd like to learn how to knit or crochet. I just haven't really tried it. Um I I had like a lesson on knitting whenever I was about 9 or 10 years old, but I only had one and then I just didn't really do it a whole lot anymore. Um,
um the old mill, when it was still open, eventually they converted part of their space into knitting supplies
oh,
because
fun.
they had a lady move back into the area who did some cross stitch, but mostly knitting, and she was willing to teach for them. And it looked fun, and I thought, oh, I would like to do this. So I got a group of my friends, and the shop owner agreed to teach us how to knit a scarf. and and I did make scarves, and I
Mhm.
made scarves for different people, but I just would rather be cross stitching. That's everything that I try. I
Yeah.
would rather be cross stitching.
I think I've tried other things. The only thing that I really developed kind of an aptitude for and did quite a bit was like needlepoint on plastic canvas. I used to do that all the time. I've made like boxes and baskets and drums, all sorts of things. Um, like a can koozie. Uh, I've made a ton of coasters, but my my grandpa, when he was alive, he really liked watching me stitch and doing things on like it's like 7 count plastic canvas with just like acrylic craft yarn. That was easier for him to see than tiny stitching. And so I would take those sorts of projects with me whenever I'd go see my grandpa. And he just got really into it. and I would do different types of stitches. He'd want to know all about them, how I would do them. I'd have to demonstrate. He didn't stitch at all. He never tried to stitch after I showed him how to do a stitch. He just wanted to know how it was done. And one of the things I got after my grandmother passed away was this box that I had made for my grandpa that had a lid that I did in one kind of stitch, and then the actual box itself, each side of the box, I used a different kind of stitch on so that I could tell him how I did it all.
Oh,
So I have that now because she didn't really want to part with it after he had passed away. I understood that.
that's sweet.
But that's about the only other kind of craft that I've done and like still have supplies for and would do. I made some coasters last year, some ball coasters.
I loved scrapbooking.
Mhm.
And I still have a ton of scrapbooking supplies. We live in a very small house, 4 adults in like a 900 square foot house. So it's a difficult thing to be able to have it out. And for me, it's not fun to have to pull it out and put it away.
Right.
I would like to be able to get a project out and have everything where we could just sit down and work on it. You know, I would like a dedicated craft area where we could just leave it set up.
Right.
So, and so many people, so many people have stopped printing pictures. I feel like that's kind of harder for me, but I really enjoy that, especially since I'm not an artistic person. And the scrapbooking makes me feel like I get to have a little more artistic expression.
Right.
So I like to play with all the embossing powders and all the stuff.
Yeah. I haven't done much scrapbooking, but the little bit that I've done, I think is pretty fun and exciting. But it's just like any other hobby where you just have like a lot of buy-in to get stuff and then have to sit down and do the thing.
Well, if you collect a bunch of pictures and if you called your friend would probably pack up a bunch of stuff and just head over to your house and we would just spend the day scrapbooking.
That's true. Maybe I should just print out a whole bunch of pictures of James. We could just make a little album.
Yeah, and they always say, start where you are, don't try to go back.
Right.
I have to actually get a new skein, and I'm noticing one of these is way more green and dark than the other. So I think I better choose wisely here.
Yes. Okay, I have a fun last question for us tonight.
Okay.
What is your hidden talent?
Oh my gosh.
Do you want me to start with my hidden talent?
You go right ahead.
Okay, I don't even know that I've really talked to you about this. When I was in high school, early college, I was on a hip hop dance team.
Huh?
I'm
So
not good, but I have performed in front of some church groups in a hip hop dance team. I was also paid once to be a mime at a birthday party. So these are my hidden talents.
You are so fun. I don't know if everybody knows, but I sing.
Yeah.
And in fact, you're talking about when you were younger. Here's something you may not know about me. When I was younger, I delivered singing telegrams.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And I actually worked for it was a startup company. And this guy he was very unique with his take on the whole thing. he would ask you for information about the person that you were sending the singing telegram to, and he would write a personalized song. So um, he would use an existing song, the melody from an existing song, but he would input information about this person. So like I had to go sing to these two ladies because their birthdays were one day apart, and he ended up writing a song for the two of them to the tune of "Oh What a Beautiful Morning" from the musical Oklahoma.
Yes.
So
I mean, so younger us, you could have sang, I could have danced, we would have had a whole. What I'm hearing is us and our friends just need to put on a traveling show.
we just need a whole thing, right? The other thing that we share in common is that we were both theater geeks.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
So that's something that I loved. When I was younger, I was the heroine in a couple of melodramas. So, and I had a great time with that. I was in all of my high school productions, and I joined a local group and did plays. And when Jeff and I got married and lived out of town for a year, there was a really good troupe close by, and I was able to join their troupe. That's in fact where I was one of the heroines. So
Oh, cool. Well,
it's something I've always enjoyed.
yes. Well, this is going way back. It was when I was in middle school, we had the summer school program. One of them was basically we auditioned, rehearsed, and put on a play at the end of the summer. And we did a spoof on And Then There Were None, the Agatha Christie. And I played Miss Dolores Biggs, the actress. And I was one of the last people murdered, but then it turned out in this particular play that nobody was actually murdered. We just thought that someone was murdered, and so we all pretended to die to catch who the murderer was and not be murdered. It was a silly one. But yes, I love playing over the top melodramatic characters. It's very fun.
One of the fun things I did with the local group here was I was trying to think. It's a play. I want to say it's by Neil Simon, and it's in 3 acts. And I was the act about the bride getting married who has locked herself in the bathroom.
Oh no.
That's not Barefoot in the Park. Is it? My brain won't go there. But I was the mother of the bride. And I played that role when I was 23. And the girl playing my daughter was 22. And my husband was in his 60s.
Oh man.
They did massive age makeup on me. And at that point, I was about 5'5", and he was well over 6 foot. I think he was 6'2", 6'3". And the wife in the scene gets aggravated with the husband, and she is yelling at him. And I think they cast me because it was such great comic relief to watch me stand with my hands on my hips, looking up at him and yelling at him, because every time that I needed to accentuate a word, I would like raise up on my tiptoes. And so it was just a great visual that I'm like physically yelling at him and throwing words at him. Yes. So
one of my very good friends, we would always joke, she did theater with me in high school, that she was just always cast as the older female lead, despite being the same age as everybody else. And she actually went on to get a degree in theater education and helps out and directs plays at the local theater where we grew up. And I actually got to be that theater did a what they called essential theater during 2020, which was basically acting over Zoom call. So we would have like a Zoom open and we do it live and people could watch and it would be recorded. And that was really, really a neat experience. I did that in June of 2020. I got to be seated the whole time. So basically you saw what you see now. And so you couldn't tell that I was very, very pregnant or that I was being kicked the entire time I was delivering my lines.
Or
We
how
did.
exhausted you were because you had managed to schedule that for the same day that we scheduled your surprise baby shower.
I know that was such a long day. But it was really good. We did the play Trifles, and it was mostly people who would normally act in for that company, but I live 2 hours from there, so I don't normally do, I don't normally act in plays for there. And then the other female lead in that play is someone that I went to high school with who was living in California. And and we had worked together, or we had acted together in high school. So it was kind of like our reunion a little bit. 3 people from the same graduating class, 1 the director and 2 actors. And another one of the actors was someone who graduated a couple years before us. It was a neat experience. I really liked doing that. Kind of wish I had been able to do a little bit more, but after that play, I was pretty busy. So.
That's what happens, right?
Yeah, since I had James like a month after that. So my last acting role was as Keisha Norris Weber, the widow of a murder victim.
And Katie has said that she is never doing another one because it just took so much brain power to get that whole thing put together and to figure it out. And
she really did a great job.
Well, thank you. I will tell her you said so. She really, she loves murder mysteries, and it was a fun thing for her, but it was also really stressful to try and get every little thing figured out.
Right.
And then to do it in the form that we did, where what we did was open up our Zoom call, and people were just allowed to ask questions the entire time. So you never know.
And it was like, what, 4.5 hours basically of being questioned, 4.5, 5 hours.
Yes.
That's a lot of information that you have to know.
And to keep straight and to remember what's going on. And yes. Right. Yes. So
well, especially since some of us were just making things up on the fly. So she had to listen to all of that and then process it through the mystery and then figure out later on, okay, here's where this happened. It was just, it was really
fabulous. I got to sit and stitch and just kind of watch the whole thing.
Yeah. I stitched some.
I told Keisha I stitched over 700 stitches while we were in the event. And how many did you stitch?
Oh, I mean, I didn't even count them. I'll show you guys because I have it right here next to me. So I realized that I had missed a lot of backstitch on Death by Cross Stitch. So I don't even know if you can see it because my lighting's bad, but in the little triangles going down, there are little teeny tiny half stitches in there.
Oh, that don't show up in Pattern Keeper. until you look at the PDF.
Right. And so I was looking at my pattern the other day and I was like, oh, well, I missed a whole bunch of back stitches. So that's what I did during that, because I didn't know how to use the pattern. But I had to pay attention because people, well, every once in a while they'd leave me alone and not ask me any questions.
So Katie talked about that she tried to get in 25 stitches and it took her over an hour to get that done, because she was the one sitting here with a second laptop on her lap and typing messages to the group to help them when they got some kind of unusual questions, or, you know, everybody had a lot of paperwork to read who bought the box, but the people who agreed to do this for us had to really have their timelines down and to know everything about their characters. So it was a lot.
Definitely. She was on top of it though.
Yes.
Well, are you getting close to a good stopping point? Because it's almost 10 o'clock.
I am. I just, yeah, I am going to finish crossing this row and then I'll pull my needle to the back so you can see it without the thread hanging.
Sure. I'm kind of like the first half of a row of like 20. So probably I won't get all of my X's crossed, but you'll get the idea of what it is. I've done a lot of blue. A lot of blue since we've been talking, which is good because it all has to be filled in anyway, right?
I finished one section of the urn.
Nice.
And I am approaching the halfway point on the next section, the next segment of it. So I feel like I did pretty well.
Yeah, that'll be good.
There's enough fabric on mine that I can leave it hanging down. Okay, so I finished all of these and I did this many. Is it in frame?
Nice. Yes, it's there.
Good. This is such a pretty color. It's aged pewter, which just shows up so pretty on this fabric. I love it.
Really pretty.
So
here's my blue. You can see where there's a little notch there. So I was at the top of the notch. So, and
awesome.
then my diagonal's right there. So I got in quite a few stitches.
You did.
Just blue. I've been stitching this on the diagonal. You can kind of tell based on, my progress, but this is actually the edge of the piece and it's just all blue right there. So I'm like, I'm just gonna fill in the blue.
You know what's so fun is that I can remember when you reached the edge of the wings, how excited you were to get to other colors. And then I can remember when you reached the edge of the actual pig and how excited you were that you got there too.
Oh yeah, I really like this piece, and I didn't mention it at the beginning, but it was one that I was stitching for my grandma because she collected pigs, and this pig would have just cracked her up. It was really happy. I never told her I was stitching this for her because I wanted it to be a surprise, and I didn't get it done in time. So now it's a remembrance piece for my grandma.
And that's the reason you have that sleeve too, because you had told us about the pigs. And and so when we were out, we spotted that fabric. And I believe I sent you a picture while we were in the shop.
Yeah. And so my grandma has the mate to this one. Actually, I think it's still in her things. I might have to ask my mom for it, but she just loved the sleeve and the bookmark that she got. She didn't even know who the character was, but she wouldn't give it to me because it was so pretty and she needed something to put in her Bible. You don't even know who Hagrid is, Grandma.
What I love is that Hagrid was in the Bible. That's so fabulous.
Well, he was probably the best of the characters in that book.
Okay, so have there been enough shenanigans?
And probably enough rambles to last at least a week. Oh, don't forget, what are our favorite colors? We'll send you some happy mail.
So I think that's it. Happy stitching.
Have a good week.